Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I think as I said last time in the last videos, apologizing for not making a video in a really long time. Things have just been busy, um, in good ways, just been making a lot of work for myself, saying yes to every project, just working really hard, and it's been great, but it doesn't leave much time to like stop to make a recording and stuff. But I can't do what I do without you guys, so I want to thank you and kind of try and get back on the video train here. I thought something interesting to do today was just show you a little bit of my writing and layout process. I get this question a lot about like how I write for myself. Do I write full script or Marvel style, or how loose do I keep it? And the truth is, it just depends on how much time I have. How much mental energy I have when I'm writing. Sometimes I fake myself out by not leaving in enough information, and I think that I have, and then later when I return to the script, it's just too vague and I don't know what's going on. This is a very small section, it's just page 20 and 21 from the script. And usually the way I write is I plot everything out, and then I will break down what I believe are the pages. What the years of making comics gives me the ability to look at a page and realize, or a script, and realize how many pages it's going to be. So this was originally, I think, 1 page, and all I did was I broke up the sentences as I wrote them. So these are pretty sloppy sentences. They're not written well. They're just telling me the action, what's going on. And what I do is I'll go down through it. So originally this was all one sort of sentence or 1 page, and I broke into 2 pages. What I'm going to do right now is tell you how I know how many panels are going to be on the page. I know how many panels are going to be page based on my description and what the sentence says. The sentence will tell me the set of actions and shots that are happening. So Umbella is this mythological character from Norse mythology. I'm totally saying the name wrong. And she was this mythological cosmic cow, because cows were very important. Livestock was very important to early man, especially Bronze Age and all that stuff. So there was this cow goddess who licked out the first being. I don't know why she's not considered the first being, but this giant that she licks out of the ice is considered the first being, Emer. So in the After Realm, Umbella is a spirit guide for some of the elves and for Una. So there's this spell that Una has to cast to call out Umbella to help her through the ley lines, which are, it's the space in between all the broken up worlds and times of the After Realm. So you would have seen that at the end of issue 2. So Umbella spell cast montage. That means the top of this page, there's going to be a montage of her making the spell, which you've already seen, and we don't need to walk through each step. So that's going to be 1 panel, because that's 1 action, even though it's a montage. So it's probably going to be like a panel that's like across the top of the page, so I have space to kind of make this montage and stuff. In the ley lines, something goes wrong as the ice crystals begin. So in the ley lines, that's a second establishing shot. Or not establishing, well, I guess it is an establishing shot, because the first one she's making the spell. Second one, she's in the ley lines. She's in this world in between worlds. So I have to show that as a panel. So that becomes its own action, its own shot. Something goes wrong as ice crystals begin. Something goes wrong. So before we see these sort of ice crystals growing, we have to see the characters reacting to it. Now, chances are I'm probably going to add another panel in between of some sort of small talk, or instinctively I feel like after the establishing shot there's going to be a need of a close-up of somebody, but I can do it as a small inset panel. I don't even have to indicate that here. Something goes wrong. That has to be like this singular action. It's like a reaction shot. So I know that's going to be another panel as the ice crystals begin. This will probably be 2 panels, because I want to show some of the ice crystals forming and then suddenly getting larger and bigger. So this will be 4 and 5. Next page, the ice crystals begin to attack them in a giant... You can see how I just cut the sentence up, because I just knew that was the end of the page. This would be the next beginning of another action. Also, that I knew that if the crystals begin to attack them here, we want to turn the page, whether it's left or right, kind of doesn't matter. We want to turn the page to begin the attack on them. So the ice crystals begin to attack them. So that's going to be at least one panel. Make it one panel. The giant crack swallows them up as they fall into a chasm, which I spelled wrong, I think. Yes, I did. So the giant crack, so I need to establish this big crack happens, and it swallows them up. I could do that in 1 or 2 panels. I'm gonna make it 1 panel just because this is a big action scene, so I want to have more space for it. Swallows them up, and they fall into the chasm. Again, this could be 1 or 2 panels. I'm just going to make it 1 panel because, again, just a big action scene. So this will have 4, maybe 5 panels. This the page 21 will have 4 panels. So I don't know if that helps any, but that gives you, hopefully that gives you an idea of what I mean by working in a Marvel style, and then how I go about breaking up my page descriptions into pages and panels. Each action is a moment, which is a panel. So everything that happens in the sentence, in the ley lines, they're in the ley lines, that's a panel. Well, Umbrella casts a spell montage, that's a panel. In the ley lines, they are in the ley lines. I have to establish that that's its own panel. Something goes wrong. Need to show, like they hear something, they sense something is wrong, something's actually threatening them. It's a reaction shot of some kind as the ice crystals begin. That's at least one other panel. So each moment, each thing that happens, each verb section of the sentence is a panel. So that's how I go about breaking up a very loose script, super loose. This is like as loose as it possibly gets into a script page. So that being said, let's go ahead and thumbnail out this page. So often what I do is I'll do thumbnails of just the page layout, not any art. There's no shapes in here or anything. I don't suggest that for younger creators. It's just something that I can do after literally 30 years of work. Now, if I had the luxury of a lot of time and some discipline and patience with myself, it would be great to sit here and really work out. I love when I see other artists work out their thumbnails this small and you can see the shapes of everything and it's a clear reading, even though it's this teeny tiny little sketch, you know. But I don't do that at this point. Again, in a better world, I would. But when you're working on several projects at once, it's just a matter of getting pages done. You know, I'm a machine when it comes to meeting my deadlines and to just, you know, creating as many pages as possible per day. Just, it's a constant hustle that I can't shake. So I skip over some of the stuff that's just extremely instinctual to me at this point. Anyway, so what I do is I will kind of figure out my panel layouts, even when they're super simple. And I'm tending to use a lot of very simple, straightforward storytelling in After Realm. So panel 1, it's going to be this big wide shot, you know, because I want multiple images here of Una writing out the spell and seeing the image of the cow and all that kind of stuff. There's also details in the script that I didn't write in that I know, I just know, I just remember it from what I'm intending in the scene. So the cow goddess doesn't actually show up. The spirit guide doesn't actually show up, and I don't write it out in the script because that's something that's already in my head. I couldn't do that for somebody else. I'd have to be much more detailed. So anyway, it's just going to be Una and Puka in the ley lines. So in the ley lines, something goes wrong. So a large establishing shot of them inside. So let's make it a large panel here. That's 2. 3, something goes wrong. Smaller shot, like I said, this is more of like a reaction shot. Like they sense something, they hear a sound, something like that happens. I don't need as much space, but I need space for this establishing shot inside the ley lines. The ice crystals begin 4 and 5. So I'm thinking there's a lot of space for these 2 panels here. Well, I'll just do that. what I'm going to do is just indicate that these are smaller panels. You know, this will give me more space for up here. And that's all I kind of really need to start laying out my page. You know, now I know what panels are the most important. There's sort of this montage panel that's the most important, and then there's the establishing shot. Those are two things I really want to emphasize. So let's get into it. I don't rule out my pages. I just go ahead and, you know, I can kind of eyeball at this point my crop lines. I've also recently, if you see me do these other videos where I talk about my layouts, I'll lightly pencil them and then use a ballpoint pen to fill in all my sort of outlines and figures. And recently I've stopped doing that. I don't have an example next to me where I'm just drawing it really in dark pencil and then I'm scanning that in. Anyway, so here we go. So, oops, that up. This is about how much space I want for this montage thing. I'm also not going to have panels here. It's going to be an open border kind of situation. Like I said, these panels here are going to be smaller because they're just little shots of these crystals growing. So I'm going to just give myself the allotted space that I need to show that for these two panels. Actually, I'm thinking I'm going to do three because I'm going to do a shot of the crystals growing, quick little insert shot of a reaction of Una, and then the crystals growing. So I've added more panels here, but sometimes what I would do is, like, this is panel 4 and 5, I'll just write in between 4 and 5 so that even though there's 3 panels here, I know I'm referring to just these 2 over here. It's my own dumb system. Please don't follow it. Sounds confusing as I say it out loud. So now I just need to figure out the space for these other 2 shots, big establishing shot and a reaction shot. Now here I've got it like, so this is a taller panel, but I feel like this can be a weird space. No, actually, I think this will work fine. So let's do this. But instead of it being all the way up, like I've got it laid out here, once I look at the actual space I'm using, I'm just going to make it a smaller area, more of an inset panel. And then all of this space here, this sort of C shape, will be just more of the environment. And in fact, I'll kind of work this, now that I said it, the C shape into the composition. So this will be the sort of, inside these ley lines are basically like large ice caves. So I'm going to use this kind of composition and shape here to create the environment and to utilize these sections here, which seem like dead space, but they'll be useful. So that's a lot of my thinking. Is actually like the panel layouts. Even when it's super simple like this, you know, I'm known for some crazy layouts, but I don't like to do the crazy layouts all the time. I like to do them just when they're called for, you know, when it's called to like bring attention to something. Some coffee right here. Okay. I'm gonna skip the montage part that I'm talking about, where she's putting the spell together and whatnot, because I need to think about that a little bit more. I need to daydream about it some. So I don't want to sit here quietly for 5 minutes while I think of stuff. So I'm going to come back to that panel. These are more straightforward. They're just walking through, they're now in this area and they're walking through the ley lines, these ice cave things. And I really want to emphasize the environment here, which is going to be these huge ice walls and stuff. So I'm going to keep the characters really small. So I'll have Una action going left to right. Actually, I'm going to have her coming straight forward. Oh, I have the wrong glasses on. All right, hold on, guys. All these years of working in comics like this is really taking a toll on my eyes. Sometimes when I'm sketching out a figure, a figure like this, even though it's teeny tiny, I think I make the mistake of not, I kind of let the character pose and stuff happen as I'm working. Instead of really thinking about how I want her to walk, sometimes I'll let the lines and sketchiness do the work for me. That's because I tend to work instinctively, which usually works out in my benefit, but sometimes it's lesser for it, and I've had to redraw pages or panels and stuff because I listen to my gut too much and don't listen to my mind enough. And you need a sort of a balance, I believe, of thinking and instincts, both of which are just developed over years of practice. Yeah. Gonna have Puka, who's a little scaredy cat here, looking as usual. I draw him a lot kind of peering over edges of things because he's a coward. So even like this hand coming up almost like he's like, it's just this little bit of body language. Body language is one of my favorite things to do with characters. So he looks trepidatious. He looks scared. She looks more confident walking through this area, which if you read the comic and know is extremely dangerous. So that's pretty super loose and light. The rest of this won't take long at all. So what does my script, in quotes, say? So they're in the ley lines. Something goes wrong. So this is going to be like Una's got to hear something or sense something. So we'll do this sort of like looking down slightly, because when you draw a character looking down at them, you're taking away some of their power, usually. Unless you're like Wolverine or something, and that means they're going to be launching themselves up at you, But typically there's this idea of like, if you're looking down on a character, you're in a position of power and they're less so. They're more threatened or they're smaller. If you're looking up at them, they tend to feel bigger and more powerful. So we're going to look down at Una as she's worried about some sound that she hears. It's sort of, here we go, looking down at her. Puka doing a Scooby-Doo walk. His ears gonna be perked. Like, yeah, I hear something. I don't like it. It'd be funny if he's like grabbing her arm. And then maybe I'll write some dialogue in there like, yeah, don't touch me. So we're gonna go low looking up, because this is where the ice crystal things start to come into play. So here's Una. Super loose layouts here. You see, I'm just getting the body language here. It doesn't even make sense, like this angle. Like, why would her butt be like that? And she's leaning forward, like, but it's okay right now. I just need the idea. I can always erase and improve. Or maybe I will keep this body language. They look like they're running or jogging a little bit, so maybe, I'll see, we'll see. Then Una's got to, she hears these little ice crystal things starting up. See, these little squiggles are just little shapes. To me, they make sense. I know what they are or what they're going to be. You might need to or want to draw them in more detail. I don't know. It's up to you. As you see, I can keep things fairly loose. Again, I just want to emphasize it's not like showing off or anything like that. It's just 30 years of drawing comics, since I was like 13 or something. So you build up instincts like like a sports, like an athlete, I guess. An athlete will often say that they're not thinking when they're performing. They've honed themselves to just work off of instincts. So their reactions do all the work, or all the thinking for them, you know. So it's similar to that. Okay, now these ice crystals have to really start coming at them. And now, tiny figure, little reaction shot. This is something, this is a little figure thing. Oh, and let's have Puka turn into his goat self. Boy, that's bad. He looks like a rabbit. Anyway, this is a pose that I saw Eric Canetti do once, where he drew... It's weird how things can leave an impact on you. So he drew a character. I don't know who it was. I don't remember. It's just like this, where the shoulder was here, the forearm was going across. Something like this. Now, I can't tell you why, but this pose with the forearm coming out across the body, whether it's in a fist or an open hand, whether the character is running or squatting, the other arm coming out the back or something, I don't know. The whole point is, like, there's something about this, the forearm going straight across the body from the side, that I find so powerful. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. It just sticks with me. I thought it was worth mentioning. Even at my age, for some reason, you know, you think when you get older, you've got all these rules set for yourself, or these processes and stuff, and it's always amazing me when there's something that another artist does that can still just leave an imprint into my head. And that pose that Eric did, I should find it someplace. I think I got one of his sketchbooks here. I got this old sketchbook of Eric Canetti's. Let's see if I can find that pose. He's so good. This is an older book. Sorry, my pencil was in my mouth. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to find it in here. It's funny how I've turned this video into an Eric Canetti video. Kind of close. That's not the pose, though. Fuck it. Anyway. I mean, that's all my thinking part. Now what I'll typically do is I'll just lighten this up very, very lightly using a kneaded eraser. So I'm going to flatten this out. Let's see everything here. Just lighting it up. And from here, I will just tighten it all up. His goat eyes are weird. Well, what's weird about them is I like the big bulgy shape of his eyes, but his pupils, which are really cool looking, because you know there's this goat pupil things, right? But they can make expressions hard, and I got to figure it out because it's a very dimensional eyeball because it comes out into the side and all that stuff. So even here where I'm tightening it, I don't need it to be super tight because, like I said, once I scan this in, I'll either, there's several different ways to ink this. I've learned recently that drawing the After Realm traditionally is faster than digital, whereas typically digital inking is much faster for me. But the reason is, when I'm working digitally, I tend to just keep making more lines, putting more detail in than is necessary. which works on certain projects and on certain pages, even for After Realm. But on most pages, I don't need all this super fine detail. And what I found is I'll spend so much time zoomed in on something and making really fine lines. I know how to not make it muddy, but which is the danger when you're zoomed in on digitals. You can put so much detail and it gets muddy. But I'm still just putting in extraneous detail that does take probably an extra couple hours on a page. So what I've learned is just kind of go back to the basics on After Realm. And because I can't zoom in, I'm typically done with the page much faster than digitally. Now the other drawback, and one of the reasons why digital is so much faster, is because I can work with it anywhere. It's easy to take to the couch late at night, that kind of thing. At the breakfast table, it's harder to take a big 11 by 17 page, whether it's printed out on a blue line or I'm lightboxing it. If I'm lightboxing it, I can't take it with me anywhere. I have to do it at the desk. So it's interesting the different processes that can make a page go faster or slower, working digitally versus analog. And I think I used to use the pen thing, which I still do from time to time, to finish up my shapes like this. Just because I never really taught myself how to pencil tightly. But then at some point I realized I'm holding myself back by not utilizing a pencil enough, Like I typically use it for just these really light layouts, and then I'll go in with the pen. But there's almost like a second inking step, almost. It all sort of depends on the page, because like even here, this is simple enough. I feel like, well, these figures, because they're so abstract, it's fine if I kind of fuck them up being weird. So like I could have used the pen on that. This because I'm kind of figuring out the drawing as I go along. There's a lot of sketch lines and stuff. It feels like it makes more sense to just go in pencil, All right, so yeah, I'm gonna keep these poses because I do like this idea that they sense something's wrong and they want to move faster. Hoping that they're gonna find their spirit guide. His foot looks weird. The whole pose looks weird, but I do feel like I can pull this off once I go to inks. But I'm taking a gamble. I could be wrong. I don't feel like I need to really do much more with these crystal shapes. Here real quick, I'll show you, in case you haven't seen the other videos of when I use a pen. One of the things I like about using a pen is it gives me these little angles that my pencil isn't going to give, like that. Those little angles just give this sort of little extra energy. That's it. And these crystals popping up, these ice crystals are going to look threatening, right? And I'm going to indicate here very badly the crack in the ground that I have in a script that's going to pop up later. Here's that pose I was telling you about, that very Canetti-inspired pose. I feel this is too sloppy, but that's okay. All that means is when I either light box this or blue line it, I'll bust out the pencil again a little bit and tighten it up some, you know. And the idea is doing these layers of pencils and inks is with each pass I can improve on it a little bit. I'm excited about doing this cave stuff because what it'll be is these sort of like layers of light to dark to light to dark. This is where the fun contrast Alex Tothe stuff comes in. So they're going to be in silhouette. Just do that a little bit just so that we're clear on that. Which means directly behind them, that's all going to be open. I'm going to make that dark. This will be dark. That's light, so this will be dark. This will all be dark. Now, I don't even typically do this when I'm penciling for myself, just to help indicate for you guys what I'm thinking. This is the old Dave Johnson advice that I got from Dave many years ago, where he's like, make half the page black. You know, black and white. Almost every object even that you're drawing, find where you can put half of it in black so that it carries weight, you know. And then I try to do this sort of checker pattern, black, white, white. And then I'll give more little details in here later as I'm actually going about it to just give it even more depth. Let's indicate some of the danger that's going on in this world, or this section of the world, by putting a cyclops skull here and a bone. The bone is almost pointing towards them, you know, keeping this whole sort of circular composition. This is where a lot of fun happens, but I also have to be careful, whereas often I'll draw something like this that's not in the script, and then I'll have a character interact with it or comment on it, and then that will sort of slowly build out another story or subplot that I didn't always plan for, and I have to be careful to not muddy up the story with too much stuff like that. But it's also important. It's a big part of how this book and some of my other work will develop, letting it be organic, let the story talk to you and tell you what it needs. But ultimately you're the conductor and, you know, you control it and stuff. Anyway, that's it. That's the layout of this page. Like I said, this I'm going to require a little bit more thought. So I'm going to need some time to do that on my own. And then page 21, maybe I'll record that later, but this one's already gone on for a little while. This is another reason why I record less, because the process took me a while. As you could see, actually drawing this probably took me all of like 15 minutes to plan it out and draw it. But this recording is at like a half an hour now. So that's one of the reasons why I don't record more often, is the act of it and then loading it up and stuff. It just takes time. And when you're trying to do 2 pages of pencils and inks a day, plus some writing, plus some commissions, that's hard. But that's all by choice. I'm not complaining. This is the life that I chose to lead, and I love it. And I have to thank you guys for supporting me to be able to do it. So that's it. Please check out the links below. I've got my email newsletter, Kickstarter stuff, social media, all that kind of crap. So you can stay in touch. And thank you. Thanks a lot. Take care.